Hi y'all. So I've had a few people contact me asking me about the kind of plants and things that I have going and what I'm going to be growing. And so I'm just going to give you guys a quick look at what I have sprouting up now and what I have like actively growing. They're all under my back porch right now because of the rain last night, and I do have two that are in my house. So in my house I have one of my sage plants that are doing really well, and I have my succulent that I was able to keep alive. I cannot keep a succulent alive. I always think they're thirsty, and I'll water them once a month, and they'll be like, no, I'm not thirsty, I'm good. And I'm like, ooh, are you sure? This water is really good. And they're never thirsty, and so they just die. But I had two little succulents that I guess I hid them from myself because they were in my bathroom, and I forgot they were a thing, so I haven't watered them in 6 months. And they're alive. They're doing all right. So I put them in a bigger pot, and they seem to be doing all right, but they did catch some of that rain last night before I realized it was raining. So I'm going to turn my camera and just kind of show you guys, since I'm here having my coffee anyway, just show you guys what I have. So, can I zoom? Yes, I can. This is celery, and this was taken from a celery stalk. So you just cut the bottom before you actually start dicing your celery, and you put the bottom in water for a few days, and it'll root. And once it starts to root, you can actually put it in dirt. This is actually the plant that I have that has been doing the least lately. It showed the least amount of progress, so we're going to see how it does, because I've grown celery successfully before. This is my blueberry bush. I got this at a nursery in Lafayette, and it is strawberry lemonade, or pink lemonade. Pink lemonade blueberry, and they're supposed to fruit in October, and that's when my birthday is and when my son's birthday is. And so my husband and I got that kind of we want to start a bunch of family traditions, and so we really like the idea of having a blueberry bush that sprouts in October, because whenever my daughter was born, the land that we were living on, that we were renting from, had a blueberry tree. And whenever it would sprout, it was kind of like a fun thing every morning to bring her out there and let her pick the blueberries and just eat them right off the bush. And so this is something we're trying to continue on with that. So next is my pineapple tree. My best friends gifted this to me. I think it was for my birthday. Maybe it was for the holidays. But she had a really pretty pineapple that just did not get bigger, and it ended up being so heavy that it there was a stalk right here, and it tumbled over the stalk because of the weight. And so I cut the stalk, and you can see on the edges there's been some damage from the cold. So I've been trimming that back, and mostly since it's warmer outside, she's been outside, but she's mostly been inside just to make sure she doesn't get any colder than she needs to. Over here, let me get up so you can see it. Over here are my potatoes. And so, you know how sometimes you leave potatoes in the cabinet for too long and they start to sprout? You can actually use those to grow your own potatoes. So this is what the tops of them look like. And this is just in a little tote that you can get from the grocery store. I've got some more there. And I planted here. You can actually see, them starting to come up, and so literally once they start to sprout, you just plant them, you put them with the sprouts facing up and about 4 inches down in your soil. But this is important, you do want to make sure you've got a good amount at the bottom, or it's not going to grow very big potatoes at all. I got this one. A lot of these are new and from Greengate. I had a bunch of sprouts going, and my kids picked them all, so we're trying to train them to not do that. But in the meantime, I needed some plant therapy because of all of this COVID-19 stuff going around, and everyone's stressed and getting stir crazy in my house. So this is a bay tree. I guess you would consider it a tree or a shrub, but they're bay leaves that you can straight up pick and put into your food. And that one's been doing pretty well. I'm going to start from the top here. These are my little watermelons. They're sugar baby watermelons. I got them because they'll fit in my fridge and because I want to be a sugar baby. I'm taking applications for sugar daddies who don't require any sugar. This is my basil, and the basil's doing really well. I've already taken from the basil, and when I got it, it was like this high, so she's having a good time. This is some echinacea that a friend gifted to me, some seedlings. This is calendula. These are all calendula sprouts. And they're very similar to marigold. This is my sage that's not doing well. Pretty sure she's dead. She was doing well just a little bit ago, and then my kids started messing with her, and I think they overwatered her, and she's just like sad, and I'm pretty sure it's her time. But because of that, I bought a new sage plant to kind of take over for her. And before I do the bottom row, oh look, I missed this one. She was on the top row, but I guess the wind knocked her over. The tag and the sticker fell off for her, so I don't even know what kind of flower this is, honestly. But it was so windy last night, I think the wind knocked her down. Over here there's usually a lizard hiding somewhere on this thing, so if you see a lizard, don't freak out. This is my lavender and my rosemary, and so lavender and rosemary grow well together, and I've seen that firsthand here. And so I keep them together, and I keep them in a hanging pot because sometimes I'll bring them in if it gets too hot, because lavender doesn't really like the heat so well. They grow really well in France, and it's a bit colder over there. My rosemary's doing all right. I just pruned both of these, and so they were really, really big and healthy. But if you don't prune your rosemary, they'll get like woody, and so even whenever my rosemary looks like it's super healthy and having a great time, I still have to prune it down because otherwise it'll get woody, and that makes the herb really bitter. So let's go to my bottom shelf here, and then we'll go to my raised bed. This is my coffee cup. I love this coffee cup. Mushroom, artichoke, pepper, all kinds of great stuff. Oh, you might not have seen over here, I've got one of my quartz crystals that I was letting soak in the moonlight the last few days because we had that big pink moon. So here is my cantaloupe plant, and the actual leaves smell like cantaloupe, like the fruit. I did not know that until recently because I grew cantaloupe a few years ago, and I didn't even realize that, and I'm super pumped about it. This is my honeydew. Let me see. Oh man, the honeydew leaves smell like honeydew. Oh my goodness. You learn every day. This is eggplant. I wonder. They don't smell like eggplant. I don't know. Eggplant's not very fragrant in my opinion. This is grape tomatoes. I'm pretty excited about that because they're one of my favorite snacks. This is a flower. I've got her on my second shelf because she doesn't like full sunlight. It's probably one of the best smelling flowers I've ever smelled in my life. She smells so good. I really love her. And I'm obsessed with Hawaii. So these are my Roma tomatoes. So these Roma tomatoes were with the Creole tomatoes. And so I had meant to grab Creole tomato, and I guess I grabbed the only Roma tomato that was there instead of Creole tomato. I'm going to show you the seeds that I got too, because some of these I've never even known were a thing. So like this, what? Purple bell pepper, yeah. Purple sugar snap peas, I can eat a sugar snap pea all day. Oh look, Roma tomatoes, because I also like Roma tomatoes, so I picked up some seeds, because I said, well, I have Creole tomatoes and cherry tomatoes, might as well get Roma tomatoes, because I really like tomatoes. And then these flowers, I don't really know much about them, but I think they're really pretty. Typically, I try not to buy too many, like, flowers that have multiple flowers on one stem, because I've read and heard that bees don't really like those as much as single flowers on a stem. And so I'm like cautious about that. But so here's what's in my raised bed right now. This is all kale from this last season, and I was just getting ready to to uproot them, but then you can see I've got new growth on like a few of them, and I don't know if the new incoming kale is going to be really bitter because of that, but we'll see. This is the cabbage that was like, it was my best cabbage head that was sprouting, and I was going to try to let it get big, and it just started deteriorating. So he's just kind of there chilling now. This is the rest of my raised bed that I've been mixing in yard soil with, and compost, and Epsom salts and worm castings to try to get it ready. I'm probably going to have another 2 raised beds right here, because I'm going to need space for my melons. And then I'm going to have on my window over there, I'm going to put a window box for some of my flowers. And I'm probably going to do my bee fountains over there, because this summer the goal is to make my yard extremely bee friendly, because like if we don't take care of these fucking bees, then we're not gonna have any food ever. Here's some more plants. So that's elderberry. I thought it was bamboo at first because the rest of my elderberry is in trees, but somebody told me that a few people told me that it was elderberry. I've got elderberry over there. I've got, I don't know if you can see it, a fig tree back there, and then elderberry all along that gate. We also have nightshade that is just like sprouting up everywhere. I noticed the berries on it at first, and I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. Let me check and see what that is, because I don't just want my kids pulling up these berries. And so this is nightshade. Over there is nightshade. And then right next to my kids' pool, nightshade. And so I'm going to try to like uproot it and put it in pots. Because I don't want to like just tear it down, because it's growing in my yard naturally. And I mean, first of all, this is a rental place, and it's growing in my yard naturally. And so I do believe that like when things are growing in a place, that they're meant to grow there, and that we need to be minimally invasive, because the planet is trying to heal itself, and we're here like mowing our fucking grass because we don't like the way it feels. Bullshit. And so you can see my backyard is very overgrown. I don't care, because this is how your yard is meant to look, because this is how shit grows. And we do cut like a section for the kids to play in without having to worry about like grass or whatever. But you see all this dollarweed, people like trip about dollarweed, but you can eat dollarweed and it's so good for you. And then all of those, let me find one. Let me see, yeah. Those like little faux strawberries, you can eat those. They don't really, like, they're pretty bitter, but they're good for you. And I mean, there's so much in your own yard that you can just let grow that's going to be beneficial. Anyway, these are all of my plants, and let me know if you have any ideas for bee sanctuaries, or if you have any questions.